This week, learn about the future plans for ANN Video.
ANN anchors share their favorite moments while filming the news.
And see the top news stories from 2014.
All this and more coming up.
This is ANN, a service of the Seventh-day Adventist World Church. Thanks so much for joining us this week for our special Christmas edition.
For more than 3 years, the Communication Department for the Seventh-day Adventist Church has been dedicated to sharing news from our global church community on a weekly basis. The department is also responsible for numerous projects for the World Church. Williams Costa Jr. has more on the department's efforts that have started this year and will carry over into 2015.
In 2015, we have been blessed by many activities. GAIN Baltimore brought 250 participants from around the world to share new ways of using technology for evangelism. 10 new spots were created for Revival and Reformation's United Prayer campaign. These spots were produced in 15 languages and subtitled in a further 35 languages. 3 new spots were developed to promote the Creation Initiative and the Dare to Believe website. In partnership with the Stewardship Ministries, a world online conference was hosted in 4 languages that reached 83 countries. In partnership with Health Ministries, 12 Facts with Hope spots were created.
Checking emails and text messages or watching television at night may be depriving us from getting enough sleep.
To date, 170 consecutive weekly episodes of ANN have been produced, and ANN International was launched in Portuguese and Spanish. The public awareness campaign, My Whole Life Matters, is being developed for San Antonio and beyond. Also, the presidential blog was relaunched with news, videos, and sermons from our World Church President. Our social media has experienced an explosive growth since the beginning of this year. Facebook has grown from 190,000 to over 320,000. Twitter has had an increase from 30,000 to almost 41,000 members, and Instagram has grown from 500 to 2,200. Our Vimeo page has just surpassed 400,000 video plays with over 190,000 views of our videos this year. We thank God for all the blessings.
The department's director also shared what he envisions for ANN in the future.
ANN, I always dreamed to be the voice that communicates about what is going on with the church worldwide. So we will try to expand, consolidate, and empower this media to inform and inspire people around the world.
This week we asked our anchors to share their favorite stories or moments while recording the news. Let's see what they had to say.
One of the things is that there's a lot of contrast in the news. A few of the stories that really touched me were the story with Boko Haram. We had to report on the kidnapping taking place in Nigeria. We had to report also on the Ebola crisis in West Africa. And most recently, I was there when we reported on the father who lost both his young son and his wife in childbirth. And those stories, I mean, just are stories that show the horrible evil of this sinful world we live in. But also, we report on good stories, and also we report on a lot of the good work that's being done in the world in response to tragedies, with a lot of the work of ADRA, a lot of the work that just normal church members are doing. And it's good to see that though there is great evil, great suffering, great misery in this sinful world, there's also great hope, there's great joy, there's great selflessness, great love, and great displays of God's mercy in this world.
My favorite part of the ANN program is actually the good news section. I love the Bible verses. They are so encouraging, and I actually ask our writers if I can have that portion of the program, of the script, because I love reading the Bible verses.
Our good news for this week comes from Psalm chapter 55, verse 27. It's from Ephesians chapter 2, verses 4 and 5.
I really like stories that describe when we as Seventh-day Adventists are out making an impact on the world around us. We do this every day. Church members do amazing things, God working through them. And anything that gives a glimpse into that is a special thing for me.
I have to say most of my favorite moments that occur on set are failed banter attempts. Basically, when me and the other anchor, we go to talk casually between stories, and I'll either miss my cue or miss the timing, or we'll say it perfectly and then go to the wrong camera, have to do it all over again.
Wow, 150, that's such a big number. I think I feel a little bit old. How do you feel?
Maybe.
Coming up, find out what's in the latest edition of Elders Digest.
Sorry.
I think one story that really stood out to me was the story on Pastor Montero. And the story itself was compelling with what was at stake, his liberty. But just feeling a part of the world effort to pray for him really made me feel like I was a part of something.
I think what I really enjoy about ANN is when it's time to do the annual council updates, because we're doing news every day. We're trying to be as current as we can. And there are some very important issues that are coming before the church leadership, especially this year. And so to be able to report those to our church constituency in as close to real time as we can, that's something that's just really exciting to me.
You know, there are so many great stories reported on ANN, it's hard to choose just one. But one that stands out is from earlier this year when we introduced Mr. Sabanda to our viewers. The oldest living master guide, he's 112 years old and still wearing his uniform proudly. I just think his commitment to the church and to youth ministry in particular is really inspiring and such a great example to our young people around the world.
Well, there's been an exciting number of stories this year. There's been stories of growth, of baptisms, of conversions. Wonderful things are happening in the world church. But there's one story that particularly did strike me, and it was the story of these AIDS orphans in Lesotho in southern Africa who are being cared for by grandmothers. There's more than 100,000 of these AIDS orphan kids and grandmothers who are financially challenged. They're probably older and not ready to raise another family, but they're doing this. It's a wonderful ministry, and they're supported by ADRA and other agencies of the Adventist Church, and it's just a wonderful thing that's going on and that God is doing there.
One of the stories that I really enjoyed hearing this year was during the summer, the World Cup, and the youth in Brazil, they took their moment to bring awareness to the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and also to do a lot of community service. Like the news broadcasted that they were doing blood drives and even giving food and giving out pamphlets about the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And I thought that was great that the youth in Brazil were doing that, because instead of enjoying the soccer matches like all of us were doing here around the world, they were trying to do something great for their community, and at the same time talking about Jesus and talking about the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So it was really nice to see that, and I'm glad that ANN is able to do reports like this, that all of us can learn how youth around the world are not just, you know, doing things that youth do every day, but they also are still wanting to bring the gospel to everyone around them.
And now it's time to reflect on 6 of the biggest news stories about the Seventh-day Adventist Church for 2014. In June, the Review and Herald and the Pacific Press publishing houses approved the biggest restructuring in Adventist Publishing's 153-year history. Constituents of the 2 corporations voted to phase out printing operations at Review and Herald Publishing in the U.S. state of Maryland and move its headquarters to the denomination's headquarters. Leaders also voted to make the Pacific Press Publishing Association in the U.S. state of Idaho an entity of the denomination's North American division.
In February, members around the world rejoiced when Adventist pastor Antonio Montero was released from prison after he was detained nearly 2 years in Togo. The incarceration came after Montero and several other men were arrested, including Adventist elder Bruno Ama, after an unreliable witness implicated them in a string of high-profile homicides. The Court of Appeals in the city of Lomé acquitted Montero of charges of conspiracy to commit murder, but sentenced Adventist elder Ama to life in prison.
In March, nearly 350 church leaders gathered in Cape Town, South Africa for a 4-day summit intended to help the world church better address the experiences of homosexuality and alternative sexualities. At the summit titled In God's Image, Scripture, Sexuality, Society, Leaders explored the biblical response to human brokenness and called for humility and compassion in the face of complicated realities.
In July, Loma Linda University Health launched Vision 2020, where administrators laid out their vision for the medical center by the year 2020. Administrators also announced the largest single gift commitment to healthcare for the denomination. Dennis and Carol Troche, who live in the Loma Linda community and whose family has benefited from Loma Linda's health services and educational programs, pledged $100 million to the campaign.
During annual council in October, executive committee members voted to accept a highly anticipated report by the Theology of Ordination Study Committee, or TOSC. The 106-member committee was established in 2012 to provide biblical research to help the church decide whether women should be ordained as ministers. The report includes 3 differing viewpoints on the subject, each of which are backed by biblical principles. One statement came out in favor of women's ordination, and another statement expressed opposition. The TOSC report also included a third statement, which suggests that regional leaders should make their own decision. The report was accepted by a 275-11 vote.
Following the previously mentioned vote at annual council, delegates approved a proposal to allow the 2015 General Conference session to decide whether world divisions should each make their own decision on the ordination of women. The proposal came with a vote of unanimous consent from General Conference division officers. The question on whether to allow divisions to make provisions for women's ordination in their territory was presented to the Executive Committee. The proposal was discussed and accepted by a vote of 243 to 44.
And now it's time for our special 2014 ANN blooper segment. Watch what happens with our anchors when things don't go quite as planned on set.
This week on A&M. Did I say that right?
I feel kind of weird. Anyway.
All right, let's try this out.
All right.
All right. Ready?
Ready.
Okay.
This week on Ann.
And the youth department, sorry.
That was my shoe.
It does sound quite harrowing. A social media trend has swept the United States in an effort to raise money and awareness for a
Are you having trouble balancing the
Dawson Mufuni encourages parents to ensure their children
They're doing our banter.
Yes.
Yes. Are you a bookworm, Yvette? All right, come and go. I'm gonna center camera with this. Let's go. Hi. Would you like to banter?
Banter's hard sometimes.
Let's not banter. Let's just move on.
Thanks for watching ANN. Join us next week for more.
Thanks for watching ANN.
That's our program for this week.
Is that good?
Yeah. What you always say, take care.
I brought the take care into the...
Is that yours? Have you trademarked that one?
I am not a take care. I refuse. I will not say take care.
There's no way. That is too fast. When we got to the end this week, I'm like, no.
We'll be right back after this short break.
God poured out His Spirit in Pentecost power after His church spent 10 days together, pleading for His promised blessing. He is ready to do it again today. Experience the renewal of the Holy Spirit by following the disciples' example. Participate in 10 days of prayer, January 7 to 17, 2015.
I pray for my mom, dad, and my sister, and if anyone in my family is sick, I pray for them.
I pray for that everybody gets to go to heaven. My family members that are sick and poor. I think that's all.
Please pray at 7 in the morning and at 7 in the evening, 7 days a week.
Welcome back. For this month's report from Nature Kids, Guide magazine columnist Rich Aguilera explores a mile-wide crater that was made by a meteor.
Hi everyone, Rich Aguilera here, and today I'm on my way to visit a meteor crater in Arizona.
The crater here in this very windy place is one of the most famous in the world. At some point, a meteorite came and crashed here, going approximately 26,000 miles per hour. When a meteor crashes into the planet, it forms a crater. Check out the size of this crater.
There are other, much larger craters in the world, but this is probably the most famous one in the United States.
The meteor crater here is over 500 feet deep and almost a mile across. No one knows exactly when this meteoroid crashed into the Earth, but since it only disturbed the upper layers, we assume it was sometime after the flood. Check out how this meteor crater looks from the sky.
Whoa, it looks like a giant hole in the Earth. Exploring this crater reminds me that sometimes things happen in our lives that seem to leave a crater in our hearts. You know what though? There's no problem big enough or hurt deep enough that God can't heal. I think it's cool that God put nature here to remind us. Remember, if you want to get to know God better, study His artwork.
Now let's turn to David Trim for a look at Adventist history. This week, the death of Atlantic Union College's first recipient of a Bachelor's of Arts degree.
Welcome to This Week in Adventist History. On December 21, 1947, the 6 Adventist congregations and 168 believers in the country of Paraguay were organized into the Paraguay Mission by the Austral Union. Today, the Paraguay Union of Churches, as it has become, has 145 congregations and almost 13,000 church members. On Christmas Eve, December 24, 1954, Rowena Elizabeth Purdon died at the age of 85 years and 6 months of complications from a broken hip suffered 2 months earlier. In 1888, she had been one of the first 4 graduates of South Lancaster Academy, as it was then called, and in 1933, at the age of 64, she received the first BA degree from Atlantic Union College, which had evolved out of the academy. Purdon served in Adventist education for 62 years as a teacher and principal of church schools in Quebec, Vermont, New York, and Massachusetts. And at the age of 75, she became the librarian of South Lancaster Academy and served until finally retiring at the age of 82. Adventist education was built by many unsung heroes and heroines like Rowena Purdon. And 16 years and 1 day later, on Christmas Day 1970, the North Ghana and South Ghana missions were reorganized into the Ghana Conference, the first conference on the continent of Africa organized with solely indigenous leadership. That was This Week in Adventist History.
Still ahead, find out where you can register for the 2015 GAIN Conference.
But up next, learn more about the church's upcoming prayer campaign.
So as I was reading this book, The Great Hope, this sentence really caught my attention. The simple, hardy people of the North turned from the corruption, the pomp, and the superstitions of Rome to welcome the purity, the simplicity, and the life-giving truth of the Bible. And that caught my attention and gave me hope because I'm just like those people. I am simple, I'm hardy, and I'm from the North. This is talking about Scandinavia, where my ancestors are from. And the exciting part is people's lives were changed. They totally turned from corruption to purity. The country changed. The world started changing. God changes people's lives. He's changed my life through the scripture.
One thing that really overwhelms me is the fact that, I don't have a job. How am I going to provide for my family? During that time, I recall trusting God to direct my path in this. Prayer is the exercise of faith, and by it daily, God bestows privileges upon us.
Welcome back. It's time to see what ministries you can look forward to in 2015.
Starting in January, there will be two major initiatives from the Seventh-day Adventist Church's Ministerial Association. The first initiative, 10 Days of Prayer, will begin on January 7. During this time, church leaders are encouraging members to organize groups with friends, neighbors, and family members to spend uninterrupted time together in prayer. Jerry Page has more on how you can participate in 10 Days of Prayer.
We have a website, for one thing. They can go to 10daysofprayer.org, and there's a number of resources and all, but the idea is that you would get a few people in your local church and you would get together. We have suggestions on the website of prayer requests, of praise time, how to spend even an hour praying together, music, that kind of thing. So a group leadership guide, somebody can be the leader for it, and it's really testimonies coming from all over the world. It's working very well. Or an individual can do it themselves, or a small group. And also Hope Channel is running the Let's Pray program in the evenings, which will be connected to the program as well. So those are some of the ways that you can do it. Just pray during those 10 days with the whole world that's praying. And we have special requests in the materials too on Mission of the Cities, some of the real things going on around the world to make it very practical and specific.
The department's second major initiative will begin at the 2015 General Conference session with the culmination of Revived by His Word Bible Reading Plan. Church leaders recently announced the Believe His Prophets Bible reading plan that will also feature passages from the writings of Ellen G. White, co-founder for the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
For the past 10 years, communication and technology professionals who work for the Seventh-day Adventist Church around the world have met for an annual professional development and networking conference. Locations for the Global Adventist Internet Network, or GAIN, have included Dubai, Hong Kong, and Jamaica. The 2015 GAIN is set to take place February 11 through 15 in an unprecedented location, the Internet. Williams Costa Jr. has more on the decision to move GAIN online.
2015, because of the GC session, will be a very busy year. Many people are planning to be in the session in San Antonio, so it's reasonable for us to think in some other options. For this reason, we thought not to stop with the project, but have it online. So it's a new way to engage everybody in the conversation about technology and evangelism.
John Beckett shares where you can register for GAIN and find additional information for the conference.
So if you want to join us online, you need to sign up at gain.adventist.org, and when we have the information ready for how you can join us by video, you can get that by email if you've signed up on the site.
Youth ministry leaders for the Seventh-day Adventist Church have designated Saturday, March 21 as Global Youth Day. The third annual event will be a time for hundreds of thousands of Adventist youth and young adults to skip church to be the sermon through community service projects. Gilbert Kanji has more on different ways to get involved during Global Youth Day.
Well, Global Youth Day has reached over 4 million young people now, and we're just delighted with the response. How young people can get involved? You know, there's nothing extraordinary with Global Youth Day as far as being the hands and the feet of Jesus is concerned. Some people give blood, some people visit the sick, some people go and take care of the homeless on the streets. There's a multiplicity of ways that young people can get involved in Global Youth Day. But the critical thing here is about building global community. So we're asking all those who get involved to post their pictures on our Facebook site, but more importantly, they can put it on the app. Post it on the app because the app will give us your geolocation, and in that way we can see the pictures of the whole world being filled with actions from young people from all over the world.
After undergoing major renovation, the headquarters of the Ellen G. White Estate, located in the denomination's headquarters, is set to reopen in April. The updated estate is expected to feature a robust interactive visitor experience.
The new visitor center was designed with the purpose of presenting Ellen White's life, her visions, and her writings through modern design and vivid displays. Thanks to the new layout, the offices are now completely separated from the public area, creating a more efficient and collaborative working environment. Despite the limited space, redesigning of the flow allows visitors and workers alike to circulate the two areas without interference. The Ellen G. White Visitor Center will be a hub for Adventists and non-Adventists alike to learn more about Ellen White's personal life, her calling, and some of the major aspects of her ministry. The Great Controversy theme and the importance of the Bible is highlighted throughout the displays. A 40-foot wide timeline stitches together world events, the history of the church, and Ellen White's personal milestones. The Christ of the Narrow Way mural is now experienced through a light and sound presentation, available in many different languages. The Ellen G. White Visitor Center.
Also, within the headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, the main level will be transformed to showcase the biblical story of salvation. The Eden to Eden exhibit will feature more than 80 pieces of art that tell the story of God's love from creation to the restoration of the new earth.
And finally, for today's program, the Communication Department for the Seventh-day Adventist Church is gearing up to produce more media projects during 2015.
2014, we launched a series of spots that were recorded in the country of Morocco, and many of these were biblical reenactments from the book of Acts, as well as the stories of Jehoshaphat and Queen Esther. So the plan is to go back there again in 2015 and do more Bible reenactments. There's some very nice sets that we didn't use last time. It's a movie producing area, and the territory and the region looks very much like the Bible lands.
Make sure you're subscribed to the church's Vimeo account to see upcoming short film projects, including powerful conversion testimonies and encouraging devotionals. To watch the videos, go to vimeo.com/theadventistchurch.
Thanks for watching ANN. Join us next week for more news from the headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
In the meantime, join our global conversation on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can connect with other Adventists worldwide through more stories, photos, and videos. Visit Facebook/Adventist News, Twitter/Adventist Church, and Instagram @Adventist Church.
Our good news for this week comes from Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6. The passage says, "For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful, Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace."
That's our program for this week. And remember, you can always visit news.adventist.org for daily news and videos. Until next time, God bless.